I'll let you know. I think I should be okay.
Okay. We are here today to announce the arrest of a suspect in the homicide of 17-year-old Jalen Jones of Germantown. Today we have Councilmember Craig Rice. We have State's Attorney John McCarthy, Chief Jones, Assistant Chief Patil, and Assistant Chief Willie Parker Lowe, as well as our Captain of our Homicide Unit, Rosario. After we're done presenting the information regarding this case, we will have a brief question and answer period. Thank you.
Sure. When you need them the most. I totally understand. We're ready? Yes. All right. So good afternoon. Thank you for coming today. Today, we want to announce again an arrest in all too familiar homicide investigation that we have been working since January, involving a young man known to the community as Jalen Jones. So on January 24th of 2022, officers from the 5th District responded to the area of the rear of 18900 Grotto Lane in Germantown for the report of a body found in the water. Upon arrival, officers located the victim, later identified as Jalen Jones, obviously deceased in a small creek to the rear of the aforementioned address. Our Major Crimes Division began the investigation immediately, who responded along with our Forensics Services Division, as well as members of our recovery teams. Upon removal of the body from the water, we noticed that Mr. Jones had been stabbed multiple times and had wounds to his head as well as his torso, and several items of clothing were also recovered from that scene at that particular time, to include a pair of boots and jeans containing possible blood evidence. A canvass of the area revealed negative results. Again, an autopsy was done, performed in Baltimore, and it was determined that, again, Mr. Jones' death was homicide caused by blunt and sharp force injuries. As we all know, Mr. Jones had been reported missing earlier, a few days earlier, by his mother, and had not returned home. Investigators were able to determine that a review of doorbell cameras surrounding his residence revealed that we saw him leaving the residence alone at approximately 4:30 in the afternoon on Friday, January 21st, which was 3 days before this, and never to return. We also did significant work with the community by trying to gather information into possible suspects or information as it related to this investigation. We were able to determine, our investigators, that Jones had told several individuals that he was going on his way to meet Tay the last time that Jones had been seen. Investigators were able to eventually identify Tay as Taquan Dion Henderson. Mr. Henderson, who is 17 years old, is also a student at Northwest High School. Investigators were able to obtain some other forensic evidence. They were also able to obtain DNA evidence. Most importantly, the above referenced boots and jeans that I talked about were actually tested by our forensics biology lab, and a mixed DNA profile of two contributors were developed with one of the contributors being identified as our victim. Investigators were able to obtain a search warrant that obtained Mr. Henderson's DNA. It was collected and submitted to our lab for comparison. Ultimately, it was determined that Henderson was the second contributor to the profiles found on the boots and jeans. So on May 12th, investigators working in conjunction with the state's attorney's office obtained an arrest warrant charging Tyquan Henderson with first-degree murder. Late last night, Mr. Henderson turned himself in here to the 1st District Station, and he was transported to the Central Processing Unit, and a warrant was later served. So at this time, before I bring up Mr. McCarthy, I just want to state that this investigation is still very active. We're not done yet. We're still interested in speaking to anyone who has any further information about this particular investigation. Although we feel very confident that Mr. Henderson has played a significant role in this homicide and he has been charged as such, we believe that there may be other contributing individuals involved in this investigation. And so I would also want to commend our Major Crimes Division, particularly our homicide unit. This year we have had 15 victims of homicide, 14 cases, and of those 14 cases, 13 of them have been closed. And I want to commend the hard work of the men and women of our Major Crimes Division, as well as our forensics lab and all other contributors in this investigation. This was a very extensive investigation. We know it has major impact in the Germantown community, has had major impact in the Germantown community based upon, where people feel that their safety is somewhat compromised. We want to give them the confidence that our folks have not stopped working since day one of this incident, since we found him, that we were able to close this case. But again, it's not completely closed. We still have more work to be done, and we need the community's help. So at this point in time, I will pause and allow Mr. McCarthy to come up and say a few words.
My comments are going to be relatively brief. I probably spoke to most of the members of the media following the bond review that was held earlier this afternoon. I would like to extend my thanks to Chief Jones. Chief Jones is experienced investigating homicides. I've worked with him when he was the head of homicide here in Montgomery County, so we've got the right man at the head of this department right now to lead us through these kinds of investigations. Congratulations to the men and women of the homicide unit that have brought us to where we are. But our work is not done. I just want to sort of dovetail onto something that the chief just said. People are frustrated about what's going on, particularly in some sections of the community, maybe up in Germantown in particular. But the only way we're going to solve this is coming together as a community and communicating with the men and women of the police department to make this a safer community. I was honored to, I think nearly 30,000 people joined us to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Montgomery County Police on Saturday. What a great coming together of the community and this police department. I hope that serves as some type of an inspiration to the men and women in this community to know that the time to make this community and the way to make this community better is if we communicate, work with each other. We cannot pit ourselves against each other. And so, echoing what the chief said, clearly this investigation of this case is not over. There are some logical reasons for us to believe that there may be others involved. We'll find out where that goes. We always follow the evidence and we'll make those determinations. But there are people in this community, either children that are high school students in the schools where these boys both attended, or parents who know. And we desperately need people to place some trust in their community and some faith in the state's attorney's office and the police department in this community to make us a safer place to live. Today at the bond review for Mr. Henderson, the bond was set by Judge John Moffitt. John Moffitt is a district court judge here in Montgomery County. He set the bond for the one count of premeditated first-degree murder. It's a case that carries life imprisonment. Judge Moffitt, after a full hearing in that matter, a very emotional hearing in that matter for some of you that were there, held Mr. Henderson without bond. There's a preliminary hearing date of May the 27th of next month, actually just a few weeks from now, actually, and we will be required to take action before the grand jury before that date comes. He is 17 years old, the offender in this case. Under Maryland law, the juvenile court, because the crime is murder, has no jurisdiction over this matter. He is charged as an adult because that's what the law declares we must do, and this matter will remain in adult court till this matter is completed. Again, my congratulations to the continued hard work of the Montgomery County Police Department as always, and I'll yield back to the chief.
Thank you, sir. At this point in time, I'll take a few questions. Yes, Dan.
Chief, Chief, if you could just maybe talk about the relationship between Mr. Henderson and Mr. Jones. How well do they know each other, and has a motive been established at this point?
No, so at this point in time, we don't have a motive. All I will state is that we do know that they knew each other. There was a relationship between the two. Of course, they went to high school together. So, you know, again, outside of being fellow students, we believe that they are known to each other in the community. But beyond that, I don't have any further information at this time. And again, as motive goes, we still are, again, as Mr. McCarthy stated and I stated before, this case is still under investigation, so we're still trying to learn more facts about what might have caused this event to occur.
Can you give us any perspective on where teen violence in the community stands? Like, is the trend like going upward, downward towards teens that are committing these acts and also teens that are victims to these acts?
Both. So we have seen an increase in violence particularly in the Germantown area recently. That's been really disturbing to some degree. And we've seen it in other parts of the county as well. But we've seen where we're starting to see, yes, a younger trend that we have individuals that are under the age of 18. And I mean, in some cases, well under the age of 18. We, of course, have had recently a homicide that occurred where we had a 14 and a 15 and a 16-year-old involved as the suspects who killed a 21-year-old. And so that's very disturbing in our community right now. This is what's causing a little bit of people who are feeling really uneasy about their safety in the Up County and all throughout Montgomery County. We want to assure the public that we are doing our very best to try to stay on top of the information. But again, we need cooperation from the community. If they know that there are some troubling signs going on in certain parts of our community with youth who are, again, having sort of these conflicts with each other, we encourage them to contact authorities so that we can do something about this before we have a tragic ending such as we have today. Because this is a double tragedy. Let's be real. We have a 17-year-old who is under arrest for murder. And so that is a tragedy. And again, Mr. Jones's death is an absolute tragedy that someone would die. And I'll be quite frankly, it doesn't make any sense to most of us that I will tell you, and I say the majority of us, it makes no sense that this young man has lost his life. And so that's why there needs to be a call to action by our community to do something, and we as the entire community need to get involved.
Chief, I think you've said as much, but your sense is that this crime was committed by more than one person, sir, the way it happened here. Can you repeat that?
Yeah, I got you. No, I got the first part. Go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't know. Yeah. I think you've said as much, but does it appear that this crime was committed by more than one person, given the nature of the injuries, the health and vigor and size of the victim here?
Yeah, I mean, that's our working theory. We believe that we're looking at the evidence. And so we're really trying to follow the evidence. And so again, we will continue to try to really work towards our investigators haven't stopped. And they will continue to pursue whatever leads possible. And again, we're working with the scientific evidence, but we also need, if there's community members that have information, we want that as well. Yes, ma'am.
Jalen Jones's mother had this had to do with bullying and also with possible gang activity. What validity is there to that?
As it relates to the gang activity, I have no information that relates that it's gang related at this very time. As it relates to bullying, again, as we noted, we'll note about more motives. Again, I am not going to make that assessment. I'm not saying that she is incorrect in any way, form, or fashion. I think there is more really research and investigations that we have to do. We've talked extensively to Montgomery County Public Schools, the staff at Northwest High School, the principal. They have been very cooperative, teachers and the like, about information that they have and have shared. So as it goes to the complete story, all of that will collectively be put together as we work towards prosecution.
All right, I knew I'd get lucky in all the questions if you asked before it comes to mind. Last one. Why did Jones's mother believe that she knew about it, that Jones's parent knew about this?
That
Jones's mother knew about this?
Knew about what?
The murder?
The suspect.
That she knew the suspect. Well, again, there's always speculation, right? And again, even if you can speculate and you believe that at times we can identify individuals as prime suspects, it doesn't mean that we have enough evidence to prove that and to charge them. And so as much as Ms. Jones was probably spot on in her assessment, the evidence still had to take us there. To prove that this young man, we had enough evidence to be able to charge him. And so that's, at the end of the day, that is why we remain silent as we put our case together in order to make the best case possible in working with our prosecutor to confirm a conviction as we move forward. So thank you all.
Can I ask one more?
Yeah, I'll take one more, Dan.
Just, can you just sort of explain, like, what evidence is there that sort of leads you guys to think that there might be more people involved? And is this is gang activity, is that something you all might be investigating?
Well, I don't take anything off the table, but I want to have, before I state that there's gang activity, before I state what is the motive, I need to have confirmation that we have that. I will tell you, I won't share all of the information that we have that lends us to believe that there's someone else, but I believe that we do have enough evidence to support that, and we'll continue to work those leads as we can accordingly. Okay? All right. Okay. All right. Thank you, folks. Appreciate you.
Right, we will be sending out a news release within the next 20 minutes, and that will also be posted on our website. Thank you all for coming.